Kobe Williams was born on the south side of Chicago into one of the nation's most notorious street gangs, the Black Disciples. His father, one of the leaders, was murdered when Kobe was 11. At first, he was bent on revenge.
Yes, I was definitely on revenge because I was like, man, whoever did this to my father, I really wanted to do something to them, and I remember I used to be at home looking them up on the computer every day, like, man, I can't wait till this person get out. I can't wait. I was all about really want to do something to them because they hurt my dad, and they left me empty. They left my household empty.
Kobe followed in his father's footsteps as an influential gang leader and spent 12 years in and out of prison. It was during one of his prison sentences that he learned about a revolutionary new program called Ceasefire, founded in 2000 by epidemiologist Dr. Gary Slutkin. His theory was that gun violence was like an infectious disease that spread from person to person. Slutkin believed the way to reverse the epidemic of gun violence was to interrupt transmission of the disease. In other words, to interrupt the violence through trained mediators, people from the community, even former gang members. These mediators were called violence interrupters.
So I heard about ceasefire while I was in jail. In jail in Illinois, the Channel 9 News was everything to us. So we used to think about, watch the Channel 9 News. It was everything, like when you think about the Channel 9 News, it's like, it make you feel closer to home, right? It make you feel like you see your community, you see the neighborhood, but you start seeing all that shooting and killing that's going on and all that. Once I started seeing all that senseless shooting, that senseless killing, when I was in jail, I could see it on the news. Then I say, no, I got to get out there. I got to do something. I got to change. I got to do this. Because I lost a lot of my friends to gun violence. I lost a lot of them to gun violence. A lot of my friends, kids got killed, while they still in prison and different things like that. So I want to come out there and be a part of the solution.
Once Williams got out of jail, he went through mediation training to become a violence interrupter and was hired by Ceasefire. Today, the organization goes by the name Cure Violence Global. Today, Williams holds his bachelor's degree from Northeastern Illinois University and is pursuing a master's in social work. He's now director of the U.S. program for Cure Violence Global and writes about his experiences in his book, Interrupting Violence, One Man's Journey to Heal the Streets and Redeem Himself.
And my job as a violence interrupter was to put out fires every day. Like a fireman, it's a building burning down, who comes to put out the flame? The fireman. So that's my job, to mediate conflicts every day in the community I was born and raised in.
He says it's all about building relationships in the community without making judgments about which side is right or wrong.
When you meet people where they at without judging them, they open their eyes to you and they'll listen to you. But it's all about your approach. So you got to have some type of special skills. So we train people in how to mediate conflicts. We train people how to de-escalate situation where it will lead to shooting and killing. And our main focus is to stop the shooting and killing on the front end before it happens. So if I have a relationship and I know two people beefing in the community, if I got a relationship with this side and somebody got a relationship with the other side, we could be able to sit down and mediate the conflict and see what they're looking to get out of it. But we going into it in a neutral situation where we not talking down on them. We meeting them where they at and seeing what took place. So sometimes it could be one-on-one mediations or group mediations.
The Cure Violence Global approach has been effective in the U.S. and abroad. Wilford Pinckney is director of the Office of Violence Prevention in St. Louis. He says the city entered into a contract with Cure Violence Global in 2020. However, the pandemic interfered with the program's community rollout. Even so, Pinckney believes it made a positive impact. Today, St. Louis has a new technical assistance provider called Live Free USA.
They teach and train on a model that has many of the foundational aspects of Cure Violence, but also is a little different in ways. And so Show Me Peace, we entered into contracts back in 2023 with Live Free and with Mission St. Louis, which is the organization that's running we have 4 sites now that we run. 3 of the sites that were run under Cure Violence, and then we added another site. And so we're a year into that, probably 6 months in terms of the work, because they had to train up and hire staff and all of that stuff. Some of the staff are people who worked under the Cure Violence model as well.
Pinckney says that since the start of the Live Free USA program in 2022, murders from gun violence are down 20% in the city.
We had decades low numbers in 2023. We are, I think, last I looked, we were down 2 or 3 murders from last year. So we were maintaining that decade low. Shootings were maybe slightly up 1 or 2% last I looked. Juvenile shootings were slightly up, but they're down 40% from 2 years ago. Juvenile shooting victims are down. So, like I said, we're maintaining the decreases that we realized last year, which were decades low numbers for violence in the city of St. Louis. And we're continuing to expand and continuing the strategies and funding the organizations that are working every day to engage those who are most actively engaged in gun violence or at the highest risk of gun violence.
Even though his department is taking steps in the right direction, Pinckney says there's still too much violence in the city. The challenge is finding the right organizations and people who can make a difference.
A lot of it is in the training of the staff, making sure you have people who are focused on violence interruption, you have people that are focused on outreach and connecting participants to services, and thinking about the data you're collecting, making sure you're maintaining the confidentiality and the trust that is built between the people doing the interruption work and those who are engaged in those communities is part of a best practice. Just thinking about the management of the program, how data, number one, collecting data, but how that data is collected and managed, and how do you manage the staff, providing for the wellness of the staff that is doing the work, because the work is hard work. And so if they're not well, if you're not giving them opportunities to exercise wellness for themselves, then that's not going to be successful.
Pinckney and his staff speak with violence interrupters in other cities like Baltimore and Chicago to get their take on what's worked and what hasn't.
There's other models in the country. There's models like Roca out of Baltimore that does a lot with cognitive behavioral therapy and helping to do attitude change with individuals. Ready Chicago, which is really looking at employment and stipends. So we're looking at that and we're learning from that model as well. So, just incorporating those types of things and constantly staying engaged with those who are doing the work across the country. So we engage through the National Institute for Criminal Justice Reform that oversees the OVP network. We engage through Cities United, who was a technical assistance partner in the community violence intervention space. So we're engaging with national organizations to make sure that we are constantly apprised of best practices.
Since Slutkin founded Ceasefire nearly 30 years ago, 60 offices of violence prevention have opened in cities around the country in partnership with the National Institute for Criminal Justice Reform. To learn more about the National OVP Network and Cure Violence Global, visit viewpointsradio.org. Kobe Williams' book, Interrupting Violence, One Man's Journey to Heal the Streets and Redeem Himself, is available now online and in select bookstores. This segment was written and produced by Polly Henson. Our executive producer is Amira Zaveri. Our studio manager is Jason Dickey. I'm Gary Price.